The CDC Eviction Moratorium is over unless Congress is going to step in and extend it. We're here to give you an update on exactly what to expect now that the CDC Eviction Moratorium is over. We're going to dive into estimates of the total numbers across the United States and some local areas of those who are behind on rent and what that may look like for evictions. And we're going to talk about what the end of the eviction moratorium means for the housing market 2021. And stick around to the end where we run through the best places to turn for rental assistance for tenants and landlords as of right now. Hey there, Christian Walsh, real estate agent with Wire Associates. We've been helping tenants and landlords and buyers and sellers through these crazy days in California and beyond, and we're here with another monthly update. We've been doing a can't pay rent update since the beginning of COVID, and now we're shifting to talk about the CDC Eviction Moratorium. This is a very tough time for a lot of tenants and landlords. They're gonna have to adapt to the CDC Eviction Moratorium ending. We're going to run through what this all means. And remember, we can't give tax or legal advice, but for the most honest and up-to-date real estate advice, subscribe to this channel. The CDC Eviction Moratorium, which has been in place across the nation, looks like it's finally going to be coming to an end. It was extended several times, but this looked like it was going to be the last extension because of the challenges from the Supreme Court to the legality of the Centers for Disease Control creating an eviction moratorium. So it was challenged in court, and ultimately it will not go on through the CDC. There is a chance that Congress can step in and extend it, and that may happen now, just before the end, or it could happen later on. But as of right now, for areas under this eviction moratorium, it looks like it's coming to an end. And don't forget that several states have put their own eviction moratoria into place. Some examples are New York, Washington, the state of California, where I'm based. We have most recently AB 832, and we've done a lot of content on that. But those eviction moratoria, those are not coming to an end. In California, it will run through the end of September. So make sure you do the research in your area to see if you're covered by a local eviction moratorium, whether you're a tenant or landlord. The two stimulus plans, one passed in December and one passed in March, set aside almost $50 billion in stimulus for renters. And unfortunately, as of right now, less than 10% of those funds have been distributed. I'll dive into the numbers to show you just how far behind tenants are and what those dollar amounts look like, and if the federal dollars are enough. You're going to be surprised. So let's dive into the data. Let's look at some numbers related to the number of households that are behind on rent. So this is put together by National Equity Atlas. We have a link below so you can do your own research into it. It's culled from the Census Household Pulse Survey data. And this particular data range is June 23rd to July 5th. And you can see the numbers. The total estimated number of households behind is close to 6.4 million across the country. That total estimated rental debt is just over $21 billion. The good news, if there is any good news, is that the federal rental assistance that was distributed of approximately $46 billion should cover this. It's more than enough to cover it. The problem is the funds are not going out. There's less than 10% of the funds that have been distributed nationally, and in some places where it's needed most, they're not getting it. For example, Los Angeles, where there's a huge amount of households behind, they're out of money right now, and you can't apply and get it. So there's a real problem in the distribution of funds. So let's take a look. You can see on a national level how the country is faring as far as households behind. And you can dive into specific states, or there are also metro areas that you can take a look at to see how they fare. So you can see there's definitely differences across the nation. And you can also see that the more expensive the area, the farther behind in rent the tenants are as far as a dollar amount. So the other thing they have here is this county map. So you can search by county map and you can get an idea of county by county how many folks are behind. So several states still have eviction moratoria in place that supersede the CDC Eviction Moratorium. For example, California. So tenants in California cannot be evicted due to non-payment of rent due to COVID-19 through the end of September. Other states like Florida, for example, there's not a statewide eviction moratorium. So you can see that in an area like Florida, you can see the number of households now that the CDC eviction moratorium is slated to be over on the 31st. These are the number of households that are going to be essentially at risk of eviction. So you can click through and you can see the estimated rental debt. So Miami-Dade, there's 112 million in owed rental debt in that area. If you go back to the dashboard view for Florida, you get a quick summary at the number of folks that are at risk. So in Florida, there is a possibility of 226,000 evictions starting next week, and they're behind 810 million. That's a lot of money that those folks are behind, but there was plenty of money distributed. So it's very frustrating to see landlords have to resort to eviction because they're not getting access to the federal funds that were promised. We encourage you to play with a tool like this to get an idea, perspective on where things are locally in your market and other places across the United States. How does the end of the eviction moratorium affect the housing market 2021? There's a lot of points we're going to run through right now to cover this. The first important point is the end of this eviction moratorium doesn't mean the start of evictions across the nation. There's several places that have a local eviction moratorium in place, so this will be a staggered and slow process across the nation. So places like California, it goes through the end of September. Places like Florida, where there's no protection, it's going to start on Monday. The evictions will start moving forward. It'll be very different across the nation, slow and staggered. Now, places where the floodgates are going to open, what will happen is there is a chance that there will be so many evictions going on at once that the courts will be overwhelmed, and it'll become a de facto eviction moratorium because the courts won't be able to keep up. So this is one important thing. Where the floodgates are opening, watch for evictions to slow down because of the extreme numbers that are coming through the courts. How about the housing market inventory? So what we will find is that many landlords who are in the business are now going to get out of the business. And I've talked to a lot of them. My channel focuses a lot on tenant and landlord rights. And there's a ton of landlords that just cannot wait to get the tenant out and get the property sold, whether they're going to do a 1031 exchange or they're just going to take their money and run. So what we're going to find is we may actually have more inventory for sale hitting the market. Now, those landlords that stay, things are going to change for those landlords because with so many folks being evicted, they may have to adapt their standards when it comes to choosing the tenants that are going to move into their vacant unit. And this happened back in the previous bust. After the bust, so many people have been affected. There were so many short sales, foreclosures. Landlords were more open to renting to someone like that when everybody had lousy credit due to those issues. So we may find that landlords do adapt and start to accept people who have eviction on their record. Now, bear in mind, some places like California, the legislation is set up so that the eviction will not show up on their credit report. So this may happen in other places as well, where a tenant may have gone through an eviction, but it does not show up on the credit report. Another big question for the housing market 2021 is, where will the renters go? So there's going to be a lot of renters who lose their home due to eviction. Where will they be able to settle? So many are going to move in with family, and many have already moved in with family, which this is a problem for current landlords because they may not want that many people living in one of their units. And we saw this in the previous bust where many generations of families had to move in together. So we do expect that to happen here in the short term for those who are renters. There may also be a migration from higher rental areas. So the tenants who can't afford the areas they're in as rents have continued to go up may need to move to other areas. The big challenge for a lot of renters is they don't have the money to make a big move like that, and they don't have the income in a new market. So we do expect some migration, but it may be limited. It won't be like the migration we've seen on those who are on the other side, the top of the K-shaped recovery, who've been doing very well and buying second homes and moving to other places across the country. Another challenge for the housing market 2021 and into housing market 2022 is foreclosure. So we don't expect a huge number of foreclosures anytime soon, and we've just done some videos on this, but they will be coming, and many of these properties are occupied by tenants or are still occupied by the previous owner. In some of these cases, if cash for keys doesn't work, they will have to move forward with an eviction. Now, if the courts are backed up due to so many evictions going through, this could slow down the process of getting those folks out and slow down the process of bringing those homes to the market. So this could drag out any sort of foreclosure wave from coming due to the occupants in the homes and the fact that they can't get them out. Where can tenants and landlords turn for money and emergency help? There are still some places left. The SBA is still giving out the EIDL loans. So those loans can both be used by tenants and landlords, and the funds can be used to pay for rent. So we have a link below to take advantage of that. Of course, make sure you visit your local city and county websites and Chamber of Commerce websites. There may still be some funds left there. And then for emergency help, another big one is to dial 211 or visit 211.org. Now let's dive in to the best resource for tenants and landlords to get their piece of the almost $50 billion that's been set aside to help. So landlords and tenants, this is where you turn to find rental assistance funds. This website from the National Low Income Housing Coalition has continued to evolve over time, but it is by far the best tool. Others have tried the CFPB. There are a few other resources you can turn to, but this is the most accurate and most robust. So landlords and tenants, I highly encourage you to check these out. It breaks down the number of programs that are out there, but more importantly, it is a full list of the programs, and it's at the state level and it's at the local level. So in some cases, you may be able to apply to multiple sources for rental assistance. In other cases, you only be able to apply at one, but you need to know what the one is. And this website, the National Low Income Housing Coalition, this website has been an amazing resource. I have a link below so you can click on that and do the research for your area. Leave your comments below. I have some important questions for you. Landlords, would you let your tenants stay? Would you stop from evicting them if you knew that rental assistance was coming? So landlords, let me know. And tenants, make sure you're working with those landlords to apply for the rental assistance funds. Also in the comments, let us know how it's going in your area. Is the eviction moratorium over in your neck of the woods? And what does that look like? If you're a tenant or a landlord or a buyer or seller, make sure you subscribe to our free weekly email newsletter where we cover topics like this, plus a whole lot more in this crazy market. You can click the link below or you can text newsletter to 949-691-3566. We appreciate you tuning in. This has been Christian Walsh, real estate agent with Wire Associates, and we appreciate you.